I actually brought all my stuff, like my whole bag of cameras and my computer and everything, not because I'm gonna use it right now, but sorry, what was your name?
I'm Ro.
Ro?
Yeah.
As Ro said, right after this, so at like 2, I'm gonna leave here. I'm going to downtown Langdon Street. I'm catching a bus to Chicago, then I'm going to Boston. I'm going to be there for a few weeks. I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going out to Milwaukee, and then Twin Cities, and then back here, probably California or Laos. So it's constant traveling. So for the past almost a year now, I've been traveling right on 13 countries. Not even a year, I'm still like trying to grow an audience, and like just being really authentic is the only thing that I know is actually working, and not making things up, right? So besides the fact that I'm traveling the next week to Boston, to Twin Cities, back to here, to that like kind of triangle, I don't have any idea of what I'm doing after that. So it's always, there's no like secret. I don't have like some sort of magic formula for success, right? If you could write a book that was like, this is how you succeed, you'd be like, that would just be awesome, right? There's no like formula, there's no magic for succeeding. When I was a little kid, 8 years old, I would give you that like number because that's like the number that I really remember, that 2nd grade. So you're right around 7, 8, 9 years old, right? Depending on who you are. I was like really obsessed with magic. So I would go to the school library and I would pick books. It would be like magic tricks, how to do a certain magic trick, how to make a card float or something. And that's awesome when you see it, right? Has anyone like tried to learn like magic tricks or like, yeah, so a few hands. Do you have that moment where you learn how to do it and then you figure out the trick and it just like, all of a sudden it seems like a really lame trick because you're like, really? Like, that's how you do it? And that's like, there's the magic tricks, which are small, right? And then there's like, I mean, not like small at the degree that I was doing. There's obviously like professional magicians that are amazing magicians, and they have like, you know, bigger magic tricks. But I'm willing to bet you that the secret to how they do it is actually not that much more complex than those simple ones. And that kind of goes your entire life, right? When I was growing up, I was like, how do these people build, like, whether it's a big, like, following, maybe it's like $1 million company, maybe it's success in whatever field, art, creative thing that they want to do. How do they build it? What is their secret? What is their magic? You know, what's that trick that's going to allow them to do it? And it took me a really long time to figure out, but after all of these years of trying to figure out how these like magic tricks were done, not just in small like make a pigeon appear, but some bigger thing like how do you garner success and how do you garner whatever you want and create something fruitful that you can like feed off of in your life, right? How do you make that happiness? The reason I wear this t-shirt is every single day, I have like 10 of these, so I don't like just have this one specific t-shirt, by the way, but I have like 10 of these. Every day I get up and I put this on and I look down and I see a smiley face. It's great because I'm traveling all around the world, and in the world there's about 7,000 different languages that are spoken every day. I definitely do not speak 7,000 languages, but this is so universal. You know, I go to any country because of the internet, because of how connected we are. Anyone sees this, they know what it means. You're typically not going to see someone with this shirt and think like, I bet that guy is a jerk, right? So it's like very helpful when you're in, when I was in Indonesia, they speak over 300 different languages in Indonesia. And I would go and people would see this and they knew exactly what it was. And even though I spoke none of the 300 languages, we would like connect, and through like broken English and the few words that I would learn of like Bahasa Indonesian, we would like go out to lunch or something like that. And it was like this magical experience of building something fruitful in real life, but that's what I'm trying to do every single day, of connecting with individuals. And the reason I use Facebook is because people can just send me a message on Facebook. I know their immediate real name, and then I can reply back. 15 minutes later, we're out getting lunch, or I'm at their place, right? Right now, something that I like to say I'm doing is I'm exchanging. When you go to a different country, you exchange US dollars. I was just in Mexico yesterday, so I was in Mexico for the past month. I went there to see Dia de los Muertos and all that stuff. Amazing country, by the way. You should definitely visit. But you go to Mexico, you take the US dollar and you exchange it for Mexican pesos. What I'm doing right now is exchanging all of the money that I have, like US dollars, for social capital. So I'm exchanging all my financial capital for social capital, and I'm hoping that that is somehow going to pay off in the long run, whether that's making me happy and making me friends, or whether that's different business opportunities down the road. And I'm still a young person. I don't have $1 million company. I don't have any of these big things. I'm just a few years out of college. So I didn't have a big financial capital, a big thing of money to start off with anyway. And as Mai said, I was born in a refugee camp, so my family is not rich at all as well. So every single day, it's just trying to pull those strings and make some type of connection that will get you that opportunity. But you have to work every single day. Something that our generation understands better than any other generation before us is how connected we all are. And I think that is our strength, but a lot of times we forget that we have to work every single day, and that despite how easy that connection is, it doesn't make things easier. Those connections happen and they come, but you have to work sometimes twice as hard. Absolutely no one in the world, because I hear this a lot. People send me messages, they leave me comments in my videos. I try to reply to every single comment because, again, it's that authenticity factor. So over the past, it's been less than a year. I left my job in California at the beginning of this year, and it's November, so coming up on a year. But I've made a video almost every single day. It's all over 250 videos now. So I try to reply to every comment. Acknowledge everyone, because there's no shortcut to it. You really just have to put your best self out there. It's never enough to be you. You have to be the best you. You cannot just be you. You have to always be the best you. And through making all these videos, talking to people, a lot of people send me messages going a little back here. You're living the dream, Nang. That's awesome. I wish I was doing exactly what you were doing. And I acknowledge that. I love those comments. But the truth is that absolutely nobody is living the dream. And if you are living the dream, I don't think you're really living the dream. I think what's even better than living the dream is working the dream. Because working the dream means you're constantly growing and you love that grind. When I started this journey and started, right after college, I was like, how am I going to build a life that I am happy with? At the end of the day, we all die, right? What's going to matter the most is not, how much money we have in the bank or whatever. And you talk to these people who are on their deathbed, and what I recommend to everyone is go to old people who are in college I did a lot of medical stuff and working with older generations and talking to old folks. You really if you can break that being shy at first and ask real in-depth questions what do you wish you had done more in life? No one is saying I wish I spent more time in my office or something like that, right? And it's always I wish I spent more time with my family, or I wish I took that trip to Mexico, studied abroad in college. All of these more hefty answers. And one of the things that really touched me when I was in college, this is one of the longest, so my background's in science and biology in general. One of the longest studies in psychology was done in the 1930s with Harvard sophomores, and they picked a group of sophomores. They followed this group of sophomores until every single one of them died. So it was over the course of like 70 plus years, because they started when you're right around 20 years old, in the beginning of college, and they asked the people for, after 70 years, what made you happy? What gave you a fulfilling life? And the number one answer, the top factor, regardless of the socioeconomic class or whatever they came from, there were two shortcomings to this study. One of them was that they were all males, because fun fact, Harvard did not let women into Harvard College until the 1990s, which is like insane. So that was like one shortcoming. But every single answer was that I had a lot of friends. I had really deep connections with people, and that was what made everyone the happiest, and as well as the least happy, people who didn't have as many friends and people who didn't have these deep connections. They were not nearly as happy as people who did have that. And that touched me so much as a college student, because growing up, from a disadvantaged neighborhood in a different culture, I was never able to make friends because I was just so different than everyone. In school they would do like talent shows. I never had any talent because my parents didn't have enough money to like give me piano lessons or whatever lessons in an instrument or an art class, so I couldn't get up there on stage and like dance or play an instrument. And I just felt growing up that I didn't have like enough talent, that I wasn't worthwhile and I wasn't like good enough. And I thought that you had to be good at something to be like happy. And at the end of the day, it was really just, that is an avenue, whether it's an instrument or a dance, to connect with other people. So what I'm doing right now is finding a way to connect people, not through any particular, talent, but just through what we have right now as media, as how connected we are with other people, how much content and like things that we can generate from seemingly nothing, right? A ton of people just travel around the world with their phone. They just, they get really big just by like filming their life, and they're not like making editing content. They're just being so authentic, and they're so great at that. Sometimes I look at creators and they might have like 1 million followers, which is awesome, and then you think about the fact that in the world there are nearly 8 billion people now, and 1 million is like such a small fraction of 8 billion people. It's absolutely nuts, that number. But the goal of that is to tell everyone that the world is big enough for whatever you want to do. Just make sure that it's something great, that it's something that's impacting other people. I think that is the definition of greatness, is how much you impact other people, right? It's not how much you impact yourself, it's how much happiness and fulfillment that you're generating in your life. And happiness is not like an end goal, right? You don't get to something and then be like, wow, I'm like so happy now, and now I'll be happy forever, because kind of like human nature is not that way. We're always striving for what is next, and ambition is this big monster that you have to like spoon feed every single day. And as you spoon feed this like monster of ambition, it wants more. And I think in our life, I read this quote, it's like, happiness is not having what you want, but wanting what you have. And that's like a great saying, because you do, but I think the secret to happiness kind of lies right in between that saying. I love that saying, and it has so much truth as well. It is like a very zenful saying, but I think we as humans do want to create the best version of ourselves, and that is what I want to do. I'm sure that is what everyone in this room wants to do. When I was working 2 years after college, one of the things that I didn't love about a lot of the things I was seeing in particular is how much like people were not allowed to express themselves or to like really like share with others. I felt like in a lot of my past jobs there was almost this kind of like myth that to get to the top you had to kind of hide what you knew so that no one else would know it, and that would make you like the better one because no one else would know, so and you would be the only one that knew, so then like you'd be better than everyone else, right? But I think it's moving towards, the world is moving very away from that. We're all so good now, our generation especially, at sharing things, right? And we realize that if you share and add value to other people's lives, they appreciate that so much more than, oh, like, Nang is so smart and he's smarter than me, so I'm gonna, you know, look up to him. Now it's more of like, I look up to him because he wants to elevate other people. So that is really much my goal. Sometimes people ask me, and I love this. It's great because it's kind of how I grew up as well. And I think human nature is just they ask you like, Nang, I don't want to like ask you too much. Like you don't have to answer this, but you know, like how much money do you make, or like how much does it cost to travel around the world, or like how do you like do this, and this? Because the question is always like money, right? That's like the main thing that was like stopping so many people from doing things, and that's what was really stopping me, is that like money. So whenever people ask me questions about money, I always answer like I will give you like literally down to the cent how much it costs. I think we're really moving into that a time and place where people are more open to discussing those, you know, taboo subjects, you know, like politics. You know, people are definitely more political, sometimes even way too political, which is good. You know, we kind of like need that too. And then the other one is like religion, maybe. You know, we're becoming more open-minded, so people do talk a little bit more about that like personal side of your life. You know, politics, religion, family, sexuality, and money. You know, money is a very sensitive topic. When I was growing up, you know, I didn't have a lot of money, so as I was like trying to make money and trying to make like a living for myself, I had to go to all of these mentors and ask them, and you know, I didn't grow up with any of those connections, so I felt like, where do I go? And my parents kind of raised me with this ideology of like, you don't need help, right? You have to do everything by yourself. And that's, you know, there's a time and place for that, but I think a big thing that I had to overcome once I reached that like adult phase was like asking for help, you know, like, how do I do X, Y, and Z? Like, I don't know the answer to this. So that's why I'm saying that, like, you know, the only thing I know is like I have all my camera gear in my bag. I'm going to Boston tomorrow. But besides that, this entire journey, you know, whether that's going to be part of my, you know, this is definitely like some sort of business. I'm trying to make a living out of it as well. But you talk to anyone who's doing like their own venture, musician, artist, freelancer, I'm willing to bet you that they don't know like how they're gonna do within even the next year. You know, they don't know like if taking this path or that path is going to be better. They're just kind of like blindly following it. And when I just first got into college, my first like job in college, people started asking me real questions, and they expected me to like know the answer to it, and I didn't know the answer to it. And that was the first time when I really realized that no one knows the answer to like life, right? That's why I'm saying like adult, because like I think it's not really until you're in your 20s, early 20s at least, that you realize that no one is really an adult and everyone's just kind of like going through the world on a blind path, and you kind of see people who you think as like successful as like, oh, this guy must know everything. This girl must have all of the magic tricks up her sleeve to, you know, make the pigeon appear, and that's like, no one knows. And it's like, okay, but like ask for help, and then all of that. There's like not that many, you know, I just talk forever, but I love groups this size as well because it gives me an opportunity to take questions. So if you have questions about anything, raise your hand, and then I will answer it to the best of my ability. Right now, I'm just gonna like kind of like ramble random thoughts unless you have a question. So, or maybe Facebook has a question. But yeah, any question, raise your hand and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability.
How tough is it to travel around the world with the issues going on in the world?
That's a fantastic question. So the question is, how tough is it to travel around the world with all of the like political issues and problems around the world? And actually, this is a 100% honest answer. I think that you hear about that way too much. You always hear that the world is dangerous, that X, Y, and Z war is going on. And yeah, don't go to like the middle of a war zone, obviously, but the world is like very safe. For every bad person that there is 100 amazing people, 1,000, 1,000,000 amazing people. The amount of time that I've never asked for anything from individual people, but I've been offered, homes, food, shelter from just people that I meet on the street. So one of the things that I did growing up, and I'm not even good at it, is breakdancing. And sometimes I go to a country, hip-hop is such a universal culture now that you go to whatever country, I will like see breakdancers on the street, I'll just like go dance with them, and then the next day, they're inviting me to dinner at their house, and it's amazing. It's just like this beautiful connection of people. So I think we just hear so much about the bad things on the news, which is one of my goals as well, is to share the better things and share the good side of human nature. I think when I was in Mexico, I got so many messages from especially people in the U.S. because we hear so many weird things about Mexico nowadays with the political climate. But honestly, Mexico, I can tell you, definitely has way better roads than Wisconsin. That's way better food. The people are nicer. But I think the world is so nice. I've never ever felt in danger traveling. The only time I would say that I felt like peeved traveling is sometimes like, and this happens in the US too, so it's not traveling, but like in taxis when a taxi driver is like trying to play a trick on you. I feel like that's why Uber and Lyft are winning. So yeah, any questions? Ask me. Yeah.
Have you ever had like a time where I'm kind of flowing off of what Ian was talking about, like you're knocked down, and how did you get back up from that?
Yeah, the question is, did I ever have a time where I was knocked down, and how do I get up from that? One of the things I do is, I remember all the times when I really wanted to be doing what I'm doing right now. For the past 25 years, I've been wanting to travel around the world and do that right now. There are days when I am so stressed, I don't want to do anything, and I have to just really remind myself that, for the past 25 years, this is exactly where I wanted to be, and then it makes me a little bit happier. I also remember people who, there's opposite sides of the spectrum. So there's that very motivating side, but I'm going to be honest, like, being just completely positive doesn't always help me. I always really do have to sometimes go back and like look at the really kind of negative side of things. So I think about the times in my past job where I was like so bored at my desk, and I just like wanted to I would have like cut my right arm off to be doing what I was doing right now. And I think of all those positive things, or more negative things too. I think about like friends or like colleagues who had like gave up on like doing some project, and when I was like trying to convince them to do it and that it was a great idea, but they didn't do it, and I was like sad for them. I think about all of that. So it's not just one answer of like, oh, this is like super motivating and think of this, I felt like that was like very fake when I heard that from like advisors sometimes growing up. So I really want to give a real answer. So I think it is, very holistic. You have to think about the really negative things sometimes as well, and those become positive in that light.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What do you do for self-care?
What do I do for stuff here? What do you mean?
Self-care. Like to take care of
Oh.
yourself and regroup after you've gone through something and you need to decompress and unwind.
Self-care. Yeah, I take time every day just to talk to myself. I used to date a girl who would make fun of me because I always talked to myself. Like I would be showering and I would talk to myself in the shower. Sometimes I'd get up and I would like talk to myself. And that's like, sounds really weird, but if you talk to yourself in the mirror, you get like used to who you are and you really kind of accept yourself as a person. You pump yourself up and you know that you're with yourself your entire life. So I think that's the kind of side that's like being comfortable with yourself. And something more weird that I do is at the end of the day, I'm not telling you to do this, and this might be like too much information, but when I'm sometimes in front of the camera and the computer all day, my eyes are tired. When I shower, I turn off all the lights and it's completely dark. I start shower in like pitch black. And I think like that's almost kind of calming because there's no stimulus except like the water hitting you, and that's the only sound you get. The only feeling is like the water on you. I feel like that's almost like a meditation time for me. And then I'm trying to get into like a morning routine and kind of meditation, quiet time. I'm not there yet. I wish I can get up earlier, but yeah, there's all that stuff. I'm still getting better at it too.
All right, we're gonna do one last question from Ashley.
So I feel like there's like a lot of pressure for people to like stay in school and like go straight to work. And then I think that's the reason why a lot of people don't take the time to go travel and do the things they want to do. And like I think you mentioned earlier about how like that was something that you were also worried about. So like how did you
So the question is, how do you overcome that pressure of you know, go to school, do well, graduate, get a job, have a family, bada bing, bada boom, right? And I think there's this one of my favorite authors. This is a book that I would recommend everyone in here read, but it's by Meg Jay, and it's I forget the exact title, but Meg Jay, she's like the leading psychologist on 20-something-year-olds, and she talks about being in your 20s and what it means to be in your 20s and discover who you are. But yeah, just Google Meg Jay 20-something-year-olds, and she talks about this whole thing. So right now there's this philosophy, there's this saying, there's this kind of word on the street, whatever you want to call it, that 30 is the new 20 or whatever, right? But Meg Jay really talks about how that is like absolutely false. Don't listen to that. On the surface, it's a great saying, right? But your 20s right now, our generation has an unforeseen opportunity that no other generation before us has had. We have the potential to live longer. It's almost like we have an extra 10 years between 20 and 30, and we shouldn't just be in our 30s and our 20s. We should use that time to grow and to find out who you are and to do all these things. That pressure exists. I'm going to be completely honest with you. My parents still don't support what I do because I get zero support from them. They don't pay for any of my stuff. They tell me whenever I'm home that I should just come get a job, whatever, a regular job, get married, blah, 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 blah. And that's totally fine. I understand their point of view, and but that pressure is going to be there. It's never, ever going to go away. And you just have to prove through merit that you are right. Sometimes people message me and they're like, do I go this way or do I like follow myself? My parents are telling me this, like, are they right? And sometimes I will take the side of the parents, and people ask me like, why? Like, aren't you like on my side? And no, like I'm on the side of like merit, and I'm on the side of like what I know is like correct. I'm not like on your parents' side or your side. If your parents are telling you to follow your dream, that's awesome, and you should then follow your dream, and that's awesome if you guys have like the same goal. But really, like following your dream also means in reality working for it every single day and not just doing it because you think it's like cool and you're like romanticized it. But that exists. I did that. I worked for 2 years after college. Part of it was because I needed to go down that path. Part of it was because I needed to save money. I needed that seed money to do what I'm doing right now. It does take a little bit of money. sometimes people ask me the number, how much money does it take to travel around the world? My answer is $20,000, in case you're wondering, because I feel like people always come up after the speech and like ask me that personally because they don't want to ask it like. So I usually just tell people at some point. But if you want to travel around the world and you make $0 along the way, it's probably gonna take like $20,000 for a whole year around the world. So that's my figure, 20 to 30, depending on how good of a spender you are. But yeah, I worked for 2 years. That pressure exists. It's not gonna go away. You just have to weigh whether you do it or not, and just know that if you go down your own path, you will meet resistance. You're never gonna not meet resistance, like ever. So just be prepared for that, and then be a voice, not an echo. Because if you go down that path all the time, you're just echoing. And if you have that, if you want to be a louder echo, that's awesome. Like, do that. There are great people who do that, and they revolutionize a whole field, which is amazing. No one is a complete, just original voice. Everyone is a compiled thing of everything that's influenced them. So it's not bad to take credit, give credit to other people, and like you can be both. You can be yourself as well as have influence from the outside. I definitely am influenced by a ton of people, places, organizations. So just find your voice, your path, by putting everything that has influenced you together, because that's different for you than for anybody else, and that is how you achieve greatness, is being you, because that's how you become an interesting person. If you're just like someone else, you're not interesting, because they're doing a better version of it. So everyone is interesting, everyone has a great story. You just have to not be afraid to tell that to the world. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
All right. Renee, I'm going to have you draw for some prizes to end the session. Okay. Okay, don't look. We're going to go.